Hello, welcome one and all to the Cybersecurity Sessions. This is the first episode of this new podcast we're starting today, where we will be talking about some of the challenges and innovative solutions being developed within the cybersecurity industry. I'm your host for this podcast, Andy Still. I'm the CTO and one of the founders of Netacea, the leading and only fully agentless bot management solution. Thank you for coming along and joining us today for what we hope will be a monthly podcast. Every month we'll have a new and exciting guest. Joining me for this first episode is Deri Jones. Derry is the CEO of ThinkTribe. Derry is here to talk about some of the challenges of maintaining customer experience over Black Friday and generally over peak periods, particularly around how cybersecurity and performance challenges are where they're in alignment and where they're competitive. My background is in web performance, so this is a subject that is very close to my heart as well. Thank you, Derry, for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you here today. Before we dive into the details, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for introducing me as a new and exciting guest. That's a first time. No, possibly not a first time, but yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so customer experience is key for me. I'm chief executive of ThinkTribe. My history goes back a long way in the internet. Not a lot of people know this, but the internet in the UK did not start in London. Interestingly enough, it started in Canterbury, which is where I now live. It was a bunch of techies at the University of Kent, Unix gurus, and there's a whole lot of people from around the UK dialing into Canterbury with good old-fashioned modems, all those lovely noises, to pick up their email and their news groups. This is even before Tim Berners-Lee created the web protocols. There wasn't even a World Wide Web. There was only email, news groups, and some other primitive ways of navigating information. So I came down here to Canterbury. There was 3 techies in the lab, built a company. I became the first marketing and then chief executive director. And the rest is history. I remember, the rest is history. I've been down in Canterbury ever since. Since then, I've also worked in the security space like you guys, and more recently with ThinkTribe, where we work with 50 of the biggest UK retailers and beyond. And it's all about the battle of customer experience these days. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think it's interesting to how the world has changed since you were involved. Very interesting to think of the internet before the World Wide Web. That is a whole different world, the world of news groups and things like that. And I guess over the years you've seen a lot of changes, but particularly I'm thinking around the peak period and how that has changed dramatically over the last 20 years, but particularly 10 years, I think, this is obviously a different story in the US, but in the UK, I think Black Friday wasn't really a thing as recently as 10 years ago. What would you say the impact of Black Friday and general peak period is on your retail customers and the challenges they face?
Well, it's obviously been enormous. As you say, it sneaked in from across the Atlantic. In those first few years, took a lot of retailers by surprise. In a sense, it's because the internet was going through this transformation, wasn't it? For a lot of big retailers, it was only a certain percentage of their annual sales. It wasn't that big. And then suddenly there came a point where boards of directors were realizing, hey, this internet thing is bigger than our London store turnover. Yeah. Our flagship store on Oxford Street does less than that. Oh, okay. And so people started to take digital seriously. That was 5-10 years ago. Now boards are taking obviously digital, and of course COVID has only accelerated it even more. It's just digital now, isn't it? That's all there is really. It's digital, and the stores supporting it and working together with it.
Did you find your customers' peak last year was significantly bigger because of everyone was buying everything online?
It was bigger for a lot of our clients. I mean, for some of our clients, it was double. What they'd done the previous online, particularly for the smaller retailers who were just accelerating up from the bottom. And but yeah, everybody did a lot more. Even our biggest clients, like the £1 billion turnover Dixon Co's, substantially up on the previous year. And so some people sailed through it. Some people, it was their first real experience of an unexpectedly high level, and they struggled a bit. I think the one takeaway that we saw most commonly was the days of people's website literally falling over dead as a dodo, not so much. But what we saw a lot of clients struggling with was, certain functionality really struggling, certain subsets of their product set, what my guys call the sort of the unbuyable product nightmare, where you can find certain things and then you can't actually buy them. Something goes wrong in the middle, and that can be a range of things, from the overload itself. It can be the marketing guys changing with their A/B testing, changing some A/B testing that morning, that week, and the site is no longer what it was a week ago. And I think overall, what's changed in the last 20 years online, 30 years, is websites used to be really nice and simple. HTML, a few images, a few links, job done. One file, HTML, you could have a web page with just one HTML file. You could do it in Notepad yourself. Now you've got teams of multiple teams, and of course JavaScript means that your web page depends on so much functionality and so much code, and it's your team are changing it, your outsourced team are changing it, your A/B suppliers guys, they're changing the JavaScript. So there's so many moving parts, and it's just so common that something somewhere rubs up the wrong way, and customer experience suffers.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the biggest challenges when I was in the performance space was the way that control was moving out of the hands of the development team who'd built the website and into the hands of various groups across the business. So you've mentioned already tools such marketing tools, A/B tools, SEO tools, and how easy it was for the marketing team to suddenly drop another JavaScript tag in there, and another, and you ended up with 20, 30 pieces of third-party JavaScript being absorbed into the website, affecting performance in an untestable way. And I think is that a challenge that you see particularly in the sites that you manage?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That untestable way is interesting. It is testable, but it's extremely hard. The challenge, and I guess you guys kind of drop solutions into the space as well. People are doing more and more testing, shift left testing and so on. During the dry run, the code, while it's still on the inside and still clean, but of course it's only when it goes into production is your code having to fight its way with all the other layers on top, A/B testing. People are doing machine learning, AI plugins for better search, and so on and so on. So somebody told me there were 4,000 marketing technology suppliers trying to sell you bolt-ons to your code base. So it's only in your production, and of course it's then changing every day. So it's no good testing it yesterday because it's different today. I guess you have a similar thing in terms of bot traffic and so on, that you're trying to protect clients against. That changes every day, isn't it? You can't know what the bot traffic will be this morning just because you looked at it yesterday. So from our perspective, it's the old truth about, test your website, do what the customers do, which is our kind of mantra. If the only testing is to be the customer, do the customer thing online, which is what our technology does. But of course, you've really got to do that 24/7, as well as the big tests before Black Fridays. And that's just hard work when there were so many teams involved. We even saw, I don't want to take more than I might share of the talking here, but we even had an interesting discussion at a conference last week about Google Core Web Vitals, which is a good Google initiative in theory to make our web pages more humanly effective, faster, and experience better. But again, it's very difficult to measure that, and it changes all the time. And even though companies are motivated to get it right because Google will use Core Web Vitals for your SEO rating, it's actually left a lot of people scratching their heads, how are we going to manage this on an ongoing basis when there are so many players. Yeah, but I think it's, customer experience is not going to go away. It's the last big battleground online. Nobody's really got anything unique to sell online. Everybody's got products like mine. Everybody's got services like mine. There's competition no matter who you are. but if your customer experience adds friction, you're losing sales.
Yeah, and I think when you start talking about peak, I think you alluded to it earlier on. Things that would be small problems escalate dramatically when you've got increased amount of traffic. So bottlenecks become exponentially harder. I mean, one of the challenges we see a lot is scraper activity. So sites can handle a reasonable amount of scraper activity most of the time, but when you're getting into peak, that suddenly can be the thing that takes your site down. Particularly if you're selling products like PlayStations are the biggest thing at the moment. Everyone is being scraped for availability for PlayStations. Is that a problem that you see again with the customers that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. It all adds to the fog of war, doesn't it? Really, what is happening on my site right now, and why? What's going to happen on it tomorrow morning, and how can we make it good? So the way we see it in a number of really concrete ways when we're planning peak testing, whether it's Black Friday or for clients like Thornton's, it's Valentine's Day preparation or what have you. Then our key thing for the load testing, the capacity testing, is to make it realistic. So we'll say, okay, let's have a look at your web traffic for your last peak. What was the busiest 2-hour period last year, and so on. And then sometimes we have to mash out of that. Hey, there's a whole bunch of bot traffic in this. It looks like so we're not going to reproduce the bot traffic. We want to make sure that our realistic combination of journeys, looking, searching, adding to basket, taking out, doing really complicated multi-step things as real customers do. We're always trying to say to a client, you remember your last peak? Well, you're now 30% bigger.
Yeah,
that's what people want to know. Is are we bigger? How much bigger? So yeah, it can be a real pain if we have to take out a whole bunch of bot traffic from their last peak.
Yeah, I think for my, it's a lot of this is about from a customer point of view. It's about knowing and understanding. I mean, it's your website. Know how it works. Know where your bottlenecks are, and then you can take the next step, which is starting to control what you can control. And I think, particularly, with companies buying into helping flatten your own peak, so you're in control of your own marketing activity. Don't take your own site down. And I think over the years, as Black Friday's become more established in the UK, I think we've seen websites start to be more intelligent around that and make it Black Friday week, not have these kind of flash sales with limited availability products on them and things like that, just to try and stagger the amount of traffic that's going. And then that obviously improves customer experience as well. What you want is a good performant website for your customers.
It's a big part of what we do. One of our clients describe what we do is we unite the tribes within their organization, and that's exactly what you're talking about there. The marketing guys said, "Oh, we didn't realize if we sent those emails off, it would cause a peak." Well, so it is hard for organizations. Like I say, on modern websites, there are so many teams involved. It's not just keeping your internal team in the picture, your external systems integrator, your external ERP, your warehousing supply, your external SEO, your pay-per-click agencies, your A/B testers. You've probably got more and more. You've got a third-party data science team who are trying to plug all your different data sources together in a better way. So it's quite hard to coordinate across all those, and not. I mean, sometimes with clients, we're seeing on projects, Slack channels in the week up to Christmas with 10 or 20 organizations on the line in that precious seven days.
I mean, it's nice to hear of the teams working together though in that situation, because we worked with clients in the past where it was almost like they were battling with each other, and it was a point of it seems to be a point of pride with the some of the teams that IT should just work. The platform should be able to handle whatever we throw at it, and if it doesn't, that's your fault. It's a failure. Whereas, like you say, if they can all work together and understand what you can't handle, then I think that obviously works well.
IT should just work. Yeah, it is difficult at one level. Whenever we work with some partners who are in the kind of change management space, people management, people change, process change. And it is tricky because if you're in the inside of an organization, you do see that email on a Thursday night that says, oh yeah, we had a problem on the website Tuesday night. We've had to refund 50 clients. Yeah, it's sorted now, or it's not sorted. There's a meeting tomorrow. So it is easy for business and marketing people to think, why is our website so flaky when actually everybody's websites are flaky in the corners at the moment. A couple of years ago, the myth was, everything will be in the cloud, so it'll be infinite and we'll never have a slow page again. And of course, that's
not quite as easy. It's not quite as easy as it sounds, is it, for most people? Do you find that, going back to the cybersecurity topic, do you find, Derry, that from a customer experience point of view, you are having to trade off customer experience versus security?
You try not to, but in life there are often trade-offs. There's the trade-off with putting in a queuing system. Ideally, you never want to force your clients through a queuing system, but if your site's creaking, that's a better trade-off than getting slower and slower. So there are those juggling things. Security, we often on projects, we're often sitting alongside you guys and others in the planning and the building stages, because the two things have to go together, and things like other security things like pen testing and so on, they always happen near the launch date rather than well in advance. But security, there are many things to get right on a modern site, and it's not just HTML anymore. It's complicated, and there are many teams. So security is absolutely in there. And as you say, the scrapers and the bots can have a direct impact on your customer experience. So absolutely, it's got to be covered.
So before we wind up, I'll give you a chance to, if there was one or two pieces of key advice you were going to give someone preparing for peak this year, what would they be?
Preparing for peak, the checklist. Our guys are flat out at the moment doing capacity peak testing across our project base. Tips and tricks. One is test it realistically. It's too easy for business and tech guys to not quite have that conversation about it. Watch out in particular if tech teams are saying we can handle 50,000 concurrent users, because that's a metric on its own. That's 100% useless, because that could be 50,000 people hitting your homepage and going away, but it would still be 50,000 if 10,000 of that had put 3 things in the basket and checked out. It would be the same number. So it's not a helpful number as to what's really happening on your website. So definitely do some peak testing and make sure the metrics are realistic. The other one, I guess, is to keep measuring your customer experience and your Google CWV, in the run up to Black Friday and through it and beyond, because you don't want to be penalized, in the following weeks from a bad experience through Black Friday week.
Yes, very good advice. I think that knowing what's going on for me is always the key on peak. Knowing what's going on and knowing what levers you've got to pull in the event that things start to go wrong. Things like, you mentioned them earlier, things like queuing systems are just things like that as a point of insurance, knowing the bottlenecks and the ability to turn them off if things start to go wrong. I think that always comes down in my mind to just, it's your website, understand it and be in control of what's going on. The worst peak situation is where something's going bad, but you haven't got the information at hand to know exactly how bad it is or what the problem is or what to do about it. And then the other one I always thought is, don't think it'll just work. It's not. Websites, high performance websites take a lot of time and effort to get them right. You're not going to be lucky and it just turns on and it all just works. Okay, so I think we're running short on time now, so I would like the opportunity to say thank you, Derry, for joining us today. Thank you for the insight, very interesting. views of some of the challenges to what is coming up to your very fun time of the year, imagine, in the retail optimization space. So thank you very much, Derry. Really appreciate your time today. And thank you very much for everyone joining, listening, and hopefully you can join us again soon. Please subscribe, leave reviews, give us any feedback. We're very welcome. You can do that via Twitter @CybersecPod, or if you want to email over to podcast@netacea.com. And look forward to welcoming you all back for next month's episode. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure to chat.
Thank you, Derry. Pleasure to have you.